The Albrecht papers are several volumes of collections of published papers written by the late soil scientist William Albrecht. I have had the 4 volumes pictured since the mid-1990s. Based on the scientific evidence presented by Albrecht, I have been amending soil, mainly clay soil, in order to increase the soil fertility, which, in simple terms, is the ability of the soil to produce protein. In Volume 1, Albrecht reports on a 62-year experiment growing corn in 2 adjacent plots. The soil fertility was maintained by adding 6 tons of manure annually to only one of the 2 plots. Both plots were plowed prior to planting the corn. With both the grain and fodder removed every year, the physical characteristics of the plots were becoming different. In the season of the report, one rain flattened the plowed condition of the plot not receiving the manure, while the same rain had no effect on the plowed condition of the manured plot. The rain falling on the plot not receiving the manure sealed over the surface of the soil, causing much of the rainwater to run off the plot. On the manured plot, much of the water soaked in, storing water in the soil for the plant's use in the summer. This water stored in the soil kept the soil cooler during the summer in the manured plot, while also providing water to the plants for transpiration to keep them cooler in the summer. Since, in the experiment, the declining soil fertility led to an undesirable change in physical characteristics, it made sense to try amending the soil to increase the soil fertility in order to reverse the process. In 2015, when I learned about the Carner blue butterfly being extirpated in Ontario, Canada, I decided to start a pollinator garden in a backyard in Toronto. I had been growing a vegetable garden in this backyard since 2011 in a heavy clay soil that I had amended. In the fall of 2015, I amended the soil in the area that I intended to be the pollinator garden. The Carner blue butterfly's caterpillar's sole source of nutrition is wild lupin, a legume and a member of the pea family. Since I had been growing garden peas for several years, I expected success in growing the lupin. In 2016, I started some wild lupin from seed in small peat pots and planted some in both the vegetable and pollinator garden areas. This photograph is a picture of several plants in the vegetable garden area flowering in 2022. This is the front yard of the same property pictured on the same day as the following 2 short videos were recorded. There had been little rain for about 2 months. The capacity of the plastic bottle is 1.5 liters. In the first video, the water is poured into the base of a lupin plant. In the second video, it's poured into a large crack in the clay next to a zucchini plant. When the clay soil in this yard dries out, it doesn't look any different than it did when it dried out before it was amended. Growing recommendations for wild lupin usually suggest a well-drained soil, meaning a sandy soil rather than a clay soil is required. I found out by doing this little experiment that the lupin not only grows better in this amended clay soil than it does in sandy soils where, at least in recent times, it is found, but in this amended clay soil, it at least helps create a well-drained soil in the clay where it is growing.